We're getting a brand new set in Pokemon Pocket next week, and it's a combination of old and new Pokemon from Paldea, which got me thinking, what would Pokemon cards look like from Hoenn in Pokemon Pocket? Well, that's what we're doing with over 20 custom concepts completely inspired by Gen 3. And honestly, some of these card effects are some that I really hope come to the game of Pokemon Pocket. Now with that, let's start things off with the first card that reflects how they went about things with Time Space Smackdown, where they completely neglected Torterra and Empoleon EX and gave us a single Infernape EX. And I bring you guys Blaziken EX. Now, before you start grilling me in the comments, I actually asked you guys a couple weeks ago in a poll which Pokemon of the Hoenn starters would you want an EX for, and Blaziken was the winner. Now, I want to reiterate, these are just custom cards. These aren't real Pokemon cards, even though they look real. I spent a lot of time, a little too much unhealthy time in Photoshop trying to make these real, to the point where I actually decided to go with full art variants, like this one over here. Anyway, Blaziken EX. Sitting at 170 HP, this thing has the ability Blazing Spirit, which is an effect we have not seen quite yet in Pokemon Pocket. Once during your turn, you may attach a fire energy from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon, and it has the move Blaze Kick, which deals 80 damage for a fire energy and a colorless energy. It retreats for 2 and is weak to water. Now, with these custom cards, the whole point of doing this is just to conceptualize and see what would the game look like with these cards. Like, if you had this kind of Blaziken EX, what decks would you put it in? Now, personally, I would go crazy and put it in maybe with an Infernape or another maybe Charizard EX, but now we have 2 of them. We'll talk about that later, which you're probably thinking, well, that's 2 stages. Why would you do that? Don't worry, we have other cards in today's set that actually help with stage 2s. Again, I'm getting ahead of myself. So with that being said, I really want to hear your guys' opinions in the comments for each of these cards. If they did exist, how would you cook around them? What cores would they be, and what decks would they fit in? With that, that is only our first EX Pokemon card. And again, we have over 20 cards, and we're going to be going in a weird order, almost kind of like chronological order of Pokemon. However, we showed you the Blaziken EX first. So I guess the next card we should look at is the regular Sceptile, which is 150 HP. Grass type, retreats for 1, is weak to fire, only has 1 card because it's only has 1 attack, sorry, because it's only a regular card. It's not an EX Pokemon, and it has the move Solar Blade, which deals 100 damage. However, if you flip a coin heads, you do 40 more damage. It's kind of like Rapidash, but on roids. I'm kind of a huge fan for this. I don't know. I think this is pretty strong, balanced for a stage 2 Pokemon. Maybe the HP is a bit low, but I feel like Sceptile out of the 3 is the most frail. You guys let me know what you think. I think the Sceptile is pretty balanced. And in terms of balanced, the next card I want to go over is obviously going to be Swampert here, another 150. I guess you can make the argument that it should be 160. It has the move Earthquake, which deals, I guess I put the plus and it should have been minus. I don't know. We don't have an effect like this in the game. So let me know in the comments. Do you include the plus? Do you not include anything? Do you include a minus? Because the effect is this attack also does 10 damage to each of your benched Pokemon. And the reasoning behind this is because water types are just too strong already in the game. I mean, we already saw the Wugtrio EX, new EX Pokemon come. Like, who's in charge of water types for Pokemon Pocket? I just want to talk to them, man. Like, so I thought maybe giving a slight nerf to them. However, this attack does deal a lot more damage for 3 energy. It does do a lot of damage, but there is a downside. Your bench Pokemon take damage, and maybe the 150 HP actually makes sense because of that. But there's Swampert. So outside of Blaziken EX, what do you guys think of the Sceptile and Swampert? Which one is the better card in your opinion? I think everyone's going to be choosing the Blaziken EX because it's an EX, but still, like, I think all 3 of these are pretty neat. Now, moving on to Mightyena, who's got an ability that I am actually a huge fan of. Another side note real quick, a lot of these cards are inspired by official Pokemon TCG cards, because that's kind of what Pokemon Pocket does. They take ideas from the original game and then they like, I don't simplify it, baby form it to fit into Pokemon Pocket. So that's kind of what we're doing in today's video. So we have Mightyena here for 100 HP, Ambush, 3 colorless energies. So essentially the idea is you could slot this into any deck, 80 damage, retreats for 2, and is weak to grass, aka bug types, because it's a dark type, right? Now, Hustle Bark. If your opponent has any Pokemon EXs in play, this Pokemon's attacks cost 2 less. So if your opponent has an active EX or even a benched EX Pokemon, Mightyena, it's 80 damage for 1 energy, which is kind of nuts. And I'm here for it. That's something that I hope we get more of. Again, like in the new set, we're getting Red, a trainer card that interacts with EX Pokemons. We have Sudowoodo. We have Tauros from the Mythical Islands expansion set. I think having more regular cards, or non-EX cards, obviously, interact with EX Pokemon in a way that makes the game kind of fun and creative is pretty awesome. So I think seeing something like this would be really cool, but let me know what you guys think. Moving on, I think we have Ludicolo here. The art's amazing. This is an official art piece from one of the newer sets that aren't even released yet. 120 HP, Hydro Splash for 70 damage, retreats for 2, weak to lightning. The ability is what's so awesome. I think it is. All right, as long as this Pokemon is in play, so even on your bench, all of your Pokemon's max HP is increased by 10. This effect cannot stack. I was thinking of making it 20, but I feel like 20 would be a little too much. Vital Samba literally just gives you an extra like a break point for HP that your opponents can't reach potentially. Throw on a cape and you got a lot of things surviving hits that otherwise would not be surviving, right? So I think just having a 10 increase is healthy. 20 would be a little broken and busted, even if it doesn't stack, right? But let me know what you guys think about this. I think this is an actual ability from the official TCG, from another like a grass type Ludicolo card, right? Where it's actually plus 20 or maybe plus 30 to all of your Pokemon, which is pretty nuts. pretty nuts. But let me know what you guys think about this one. Now it's time to move on to the next EX Pokemon on the list, and it's Gardevoir EX. Now, you'll quickly realize this is an official art piece by Takumi Wada, who also, I believe, created the Gallade art piece that is in the game, the actual Pokemon Pocket rainbow bordered Gallade. So finding this art and trying to get it to work on this like border was so hard. So I hope you guys can appreciate how much hard work that was. And then trying to also figure out how to make it strong, but not too strong to where it's like a better version of its baby form. And I think I landed the mark here, to be honest, but you guys let me know. 170 HP, Psyshock deals 100 damage. I was thinking Gengar, right? Retreats for 2 energy, Darkness energy is its weakness, and then Psychic Link is what's so fire about this. As often as you'd like, think Vaporeon, but for Psychic. During your turn, you may move a Psychic energy from your discard pile to your active Psychic Pokemon. So not from your other Pokemon like Vaporeon, but playing around with the discard pile. I called Volkner before we got Volkner. Like that's an effect that I really wanted to see come to the game. And then we got Volkner and I was so happy. You know, a supporter card that interacts with the discard pile is so much fun. It's so interesting. So getting some more cards that interact with the discard pile would be so cool in my opinion. But that's Gardevoir EX. And we also have another EX that we're hopping into, Slaking EX. This thing, first of all, the art, this is the best art that I could have found for Slaking. And I think it's pretty cute, honestly. Shout out to the artist. I try to credit all the illustrators right down in the corner of the card where I find the art. Slaking EX is a 190 HP, heavy impact, 2 energy for 120. Retreats for 4 and is weak to fighting. Now you're probably saying 2 energy 120 is crazy. This is broken. However, it has an ability that makes it feel semi-appropriate. It's called Unbothered, and it says if your opponent has no Pokemon EXs in play, this Pokemon can't attack. It's almost like it's a Truant, right? Is it Truant ability where it just like falls asleep every other turn? It's like it's unbothered, right? So I think that's pretty cool. It also forces your opponents to play around potentially maybe no EX decks, because if you're running a Slaking, there's no point in evolving if your opponent has 0 EXs in play. You literally do nothing. This Pokemon goes down, you give your opponent 2 free points. So I think personally that's a pretty interesting way to go about things. But you guys let me know what you think about the Slaking. Moving on, we have Aggron here, which is another simple card, not an EX. 160 HP, Metal Energy, and it has Giga Impact. Now I did this on purpose. 3 colorless, 1 metal to make it kind of strong. And it says here, during your next turn, this Pokemon can't use Giga Impact, right? Because the idea behind this is you should be able to ramp this pretty easily, and it should be able to just one tap a lot of things. I'll be honest, Torterra from Space Time Smackdown was kind of an inspiration for this card, but I think this makes a lot of sense. Also, a lot of you are like, we should have gotten a Aggron EX. I'm getting ahead of myself, but if you guys really enjoyed this video and these types of videos and this concept, there's no reason why I wouldn't do a mini set for Hoenn and then potentially do some of these non-EXs as EXs. But, you know, I don't want to get ahead of myself here. So with that, let's move on to another EX Pokemon card, and that's going to be Metacham EX, 140 HP, and it has a move called High Jump Kick. Again, a lot of these cards are just based around effects that I would really like to see. 3 colorless, like Yanmega EX, so you can slot this into any deck. And it says here, if your opponent's active Pokemon is an EX Pokemon, this attack does 40 more damage, which the max output is 140. And then if it's not, this Pokemon does 40 damage to itself, which is very reminiscent to the actual, you know, mainline games where you're playing on your Game Boys or, you know, Nintendo Switches, where if you miss High Jump Kick, you're actually hitting yourself and dealing damage to yourself. So I think that's pretty authentic. I'm kind of a huge fan of that, but I would be a little cautious playing this Metacham in decks, because again, it's one of those cards where if you're not hitting, if your opponent is not running EXs, you're kind of at a loss here. You're gonna end up losing HP and potentially just giving your opponent a free 2 points on the board. Now moving on to our dragon, but not our only dragon of the region, Flygon, 150. We have Grass Fighting Energy and 2 colorless. It says Flying Beatdown for 100 damage. Now, I think this is cool. This doesn't exist currently in Pokemon Pocket. There's a lot of discard 1 type of energy, discard random energy, but not discard 2 energies, right? Especially not discard 2 energies and then have this effect happen. So with that being said, it says here discard. Maybe I include you may, giving the player a choice, but it says here discard a grass energy and a fighting energy attached to this Pokemon. If you do, the defending Pokemon is now paralyzed. So the idea behind this is you bring in Flygon, you hit something for 100, you paralyze them. They can't move it out. And then the following turn, you only have 2 energy on your Flygon. You cannot attack with your Flygon. There's no way you can get your energy back, so you retreat into something else that can come in and knock out that Pokemon that couldn't retreat on your opponent's side. It's a little cheeky. I'm all for it, to be honest. And you know what else I'm all for? I'm all for us finally getting our first Dragon type EX Pokemon. And I think if we're going to get one, it would be Altaria EX. Here's my idea in Altaria EX, aka a Dragon type. So with this, I feel like we have to give it a little bit lower HP, even though it's a stage 1, because it has 0 weakness, but also its ability is kind of busted, to be honest. A lot of people brought that up. It's a little too strong. I had to reduce the damage of Sky Attack. It is a metal water energy for 60 damage. And it says here the energy natural hum. Once during your turn, you may heal 20 damage from each of your Pokemon. I think it's pretty good. I think it's a well-balanced card. I don't think it's going to be super meta relevant. It is a stage 1. It's a permanent potion, right? This would be extremely toxic in like Executor decks, so I kind of hope it doesn't exist. But like if I did it for heal 10, it would have been Shaman, right? However, heal 20, I don't know. It feels healthy, maybe not. You guys let me know. This might be the most busted, broken card in today's set, which honestly might be good news. Moving on, let's go into another card that I'm very excited about, Milotic EX, 150. Waterfall for water, energy, colorless, similar to Altaria. Evolves from Feebas. It's a stage 1, 60 damage. However, this is the cool part. Marvel Scale prevents all damage and effects of attacks from your opponent's EX Pokemon done to this Pokemon. So essentially, your opponent needs to use non-EX Pokemon or non-EX means to knock out your Milotic EX, or else just swap you out and do not interact with your Milotic EX. It might be a little too strong. However, what is it? A Rampardos and a red one-shot this Milotic. So it's not the end of the world, but I think this type of card would be very interesting coming to Pokemon Pocket, or at least this type of effect that says, hey, your EXs and not attack me. And I really think that's an effect that's going to be coming. Now, moving on to Banette EX, 160 HP, Shadow Ball for 90, 2 Psychic Energies, retreats for 2. Poltergeist is an ability that takes 2 existing ability concepts and merges them into one. And I'm so happy for it. You guys know which ones I'm talking about? I'm talking about Levitate and Shadowy Spellbind to a T at least. Now, if this Pokemon has any Psychic Energy attached, your opponent can't use any item cards from their hand. And this effect procs from the bench, which is pretty cool, I think, personally. So there's that. It doesn't need to be in the active spot. So it's almost like a better Gengar. However, it's only item cards. It's not tools. It's not supporters. So your opponent can still use supporters, still use tools. However, it can't use Pokeballs. It can't use potions. It can't use communication, stuff like that, right? And it can't use the new item card that I'll be sharing with you guys later in today's video. Now, moving on to our second dragon type that I need to show you guys. Where is it? Right here. Salamence EX. The idea behind all 10 of these EX Pokemon is that you're having a Kyogre pack and you're having a Groudon pack. And then some of these cards, specifically the Altaria and Salamence, are going to be in opposite packs. So because we had the Altaria, I was like, it's a great opportunity to also create Salamence. I don't think we would get 2 dragons, especially since we haven't gotten a single dragon EXs in a future set, but it'd be cool. And this is for fun. This is a custom concept video. So Salamence EX is 180 HP dragon type, 2 attacks. Let's talk about Dragon Strike first, which deals 100 for fire energy, water energy, and colorless energy. So this thing could be slotted into like a Dread deck. It'd be amazing, right? And then we have the move Wide Claw, which I think is, it's similar to Garchomp with linear attack, right? Where the first attack is the effect. And this thing says Wide Claw, this attack does 30 damage to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. I think that's amazing. I think that's pretty awesome. It has no weaknesses. I would chase this card. It would be my chase card 100%. But what do you guys think? Now let's check out Metagross here that has a move for 2 energy, 160 HP for 2 metal energy. It has the move Meteor Mash that deals 70 damage. During your next turn, this Pokemon's Meteor Mash attack does 70 more damage. So think Togekiss, but for Metagross, essentially. I thought this was a really cool idea. It's weak to fire, retreats for 3, and you can essentially one-tap EXs, basic EXs that are at 140, as long as you get 1 Meteor Mash off. And I think that's pretty respectable for Metagross. Again, this isn't an EX, but who knows? We might get one in the future, right? A concept for an EX in the future. Now, moving on from that is what you guys are really excited about. And those are the pack legendaries, if you will, starting with Kyogre. So this is the immersive Kyogre. I tried to actually make, I can show you guys, like, again, I was making these like EX full art 3D stuff to make them look authentic, but they were so much effort and they weren't perfect. And for me, it kind of bothered me that I wasn't perfect. So instead we're going for the immersive style. All right. So Kyogre EX here, and also it looks way cooler, to be honest. 140 HP. It has 2 moves. It has Water Pulse for 40, Water Energy, colorless, nothing too crazy. And then it has Tidal Wave. I did not want to make this water type too strong. So instead, Tidal Wave is 80 damage for 3 energy, 2 water, 1 colorless, and it heals 10 damage from each of your Pokemon, including Kyogre. So all your benched Pokemon, they all get healed after you use Tidal Wave. I think it's a pretty respectable, not overpowered card like we've gotten with Wugtrio, Palkia, every other water type EX. So I think it's pretty balanced. And now time for the moment you've all been waiting for, because apparently through all the polls that I've been having all week on my channel, on the live streams, a lot of people really like Groudon, and I can see why. Here's Groudon EX, a fighting type, 140 HP. and it has the move Bulk Up. Okay, once during your turn, you may take a fighting energy from your energy zone and attach it to the fighting Pokemon in the active spot. Essentially, this is a basic Gardevoir that helps you ramp. However, I think because of the new Giratina that we've seen, I think we have to also include your turn ends after using this to ramp any sort of card. I think it makes sense. I think I'm on board, because if we don't do that, here's a situation that could occur. Groudon 18 trainers, you open with 2 Groudons, you're going second, right? You give it an energy, you use this ability, your bench Groudon also uses its ability, and now you get to dish out 80 damage on turn 1 if you're going second in a Groudon 18 trainer deck. So I think in an effort to make it balanced, and also because those cards were just released and we saw the direction they're going, I think including that phrase of your turn ends after this ability might be pretty good, to be honest. Heck, you could even do 2 energy, right? Maybe that would be too much for fighting types. But yeah, there's Groudon EX. This is what it currently is. I already shared what I think it should be. You guys let me know in the comments, which one are you picking? And do you agree with the revision? Do we add that inclusion of text saying your turn ends to make this a bit more balanced? Yo, this is fun. I hope you guys are having fun too. All right, Deoxys is going to be the last Pokemon that we're talking about before jumping into the trainer cards for today's video. So Deoxys has 120 HP, Psycho Boost, 70 damage for 3 psychic energies. However, after you use this move, you have to move all energy from this Pokemon to your bench in any way you like. So the idea behind this is a lot of times when you're ramping up a card, and if it goes out, gets knocked out, all your cards go to the discard pile. You just wasted so many turns. However, Deoxys here can ramp itself, come in, tag something, hit something for 70, and then redistribute that energy to the rest of your bench. It could retreat the following turn, or it can go down the following turn and only trade a single point. But all the while, you're not losing momentum and you're still ramping up something that, can actually do something. Maybe that new Giratina EX that we've seen. So I think this is a pretty cool card. I would love an effect like this that moves your energy after you attack instead of discarding. Like, give it to your bench. If we had a card like that gave your energy to your bench instead of discarding, Lieutenant Surge would be insane, right? Especially if it was a lightning type Pokemon. It would be absolutely insane. All right, moving on to the trainer cards, starting with the first card. It is an item card, and it is the Pokénav, where you put one card in your hand, the bottom of your deck, you bottom deck that card, and then you just draw the top card. So there's no shuffling involved. All you're doing is you're taking a card from your hand, you bottom deck it, and then you draw a card. So it helps you cycle through your deck. It's nothing too crazy. They haven't really played with that idea or concept of bottom decking. It exists in the official TCG, but also just like bottom decking, drawing without shuffling. Seems like a pretty easy thing to do when it's only one card at a time for a 20 card deck. That's what I think. All right, moving on to our tool card, Bravery Charm. This is an actual card from the official TCG. However, I changed what the effect does, right? So I took the name of it, I took the art of it, but I changed the effect, and it says the effect, the Pokemon this card is attached to takes -10 damage from attack. I think that's pretty cool. Throw this on something like, I don't know, Drud or even Melmetal, things get pretty crazy, right? And I feel like it works. Bravery Charm. I think it was based off the idea of Strength Charm. There's an official card, but I didn't like the art for it, so I decided to go with Bravery Charm. Having something that is a continuous minus something from attacks could be pretty nice for metal Pokemon, for bulky decks. I think that could be pretty neat. All right, now moving on to our supporters. I try to do my best with the art. I try to do my best with the effects. Some of these are out there, but again, the whole purpose of this video is to share concepts that I think would be interesting and cool and balanced if they came to Pokemon Pocket. And I can't wait for you guys to see the last supporter. Oh man, some of you in the Discord have already seen it, but anyway, again, don't want to get ahead of myself. So we have Scott here, which is literally Pokemon Communications, but for supporters. Choose a supporter in your hand and switch it with a random supporter in your deck. This could be very good if you know your final card in your deck is a Cyrus and you have something like, I don't know, an Erica, and you need that Cyrus. Well, you Scott, you switch him out, it comes into your hand. You can't use it until the following turn, but still you got it into your hand, right? I guess you can wait to draw. I don't know. So there you go. It's not a crazy card. It's just an interesting effect that I think could exist. Now, moving on to the champ himself, Steven, both you and your opponent shuffle your hands into your deck and draw 3 cards. This idea was created before I saw Iono in the new set coming out. So honestly, I guess we can just scrap it. It's literally Iono, but a guaranteed 3 cards instead of how many cards you had in your hand. Because if you use Iono and you only have 1 card in your hand, you're drawing only 1. This one, if you have 1 card in your hand and you use Steven, you're guaranteed to draw 3. If your opponent has 6 cards, they're only drawing 3. They're not drawing another 6. So I guess it's kind of good. I guess maybe not. You guys tell me real quick. This is actually a very interesting question. Steven or Iono currently in Pokemon Pocket, which one do you think would be a better card? I don't know. That's actually really tough. I really don't know. Moving on to the king of Team Aqua himself, Archie, which is the Caterpie's effect, but for water Pokemon. And it's just a supporter card, so you lose your supporter option for the turn. You put 1 random water Pokemon from your deck into your hand. This would be crazy if you're running something like a Glaceon or a Vaporeon deck. I think Glaceon would be better because you open up, you guaranteed to open with Eevee, right? Potentially, and then you just use this card. You're finding your Glaceon, no questions. I think it's pretty cool. I don't think it's broken. I know water types are having the time of their life right now, but I think it's a pretty neat card. Now with that, we have Maxi. This is an effect I really want to see come to the game. Again, these are all about effects that I want to see. Move up to 20 damage from your Pokemon in the active spot to one of your opponent's Pokemon. So if you have damage on you, like 30, 40, 50, take 20 and then choose one of your opponent's Pokemon and then put it on them. Currently, we don't have anything in the game that moves damage around. And I think that would be a really cool ability or effect for a card. And honestly, I couldn't think of anything else for Maxi, so I was like, I'm just going to put it on for Maxi here. Next up, we have Wally, which helps us with stage 2s. I told you at the start of the video, we have some support for stage 2. It's not perfect, but it's still pretty good. Put a random stage 2 Pokemon from your deck into your hand. It's a supporter card. It helps you get that stage 2. You're still out of luck for stage 1. Figure it out. I think doing something for stage 1 and stage 2 would be a little broken, but having a Pokeball for stage, basics, Wally for stage 2, and then potentially Pokemon communication for stage 1 really helps with stage 2 Pokemon evolution lines entirely. I think this is pretty cool. I think it's balanced, and you guys let me know in the comments. And with that, we have our final card that I'm so excited to share. I think I cooked with this. A lot of people might hate it. I personally love it. Introducing May, the anti-Misty card. You flip a coin until you get tails. For each heads, discard a random energy from your opponent's active Pokemon, which is crazy because I made this before we saw Beedrill. And so like we are getting that effect already into the game. However, it's only 1 energy at a time. So I'm not mad at it. Discarding random energy, like it's crazy. It's crazy. It's so cool to like come up with these concepts and then see them actually come to the game. Like it gives me some sort of dopamine hit you guys don't even understand. But this would be cool too. And also it's kind of on brand with May's whole character, right? She's kind of like that. She's kind of petty. So I feel like flipping a coin until you get tails and then removing all of your opponent's active. Like imagine your opponent hits 10 heads for a Misty and then you hit 11 heads on a May. It would never happen, but it'd be hilarious, right? And then they remove all their energy. Even if they only have 1 energy, you hit 10 heads. It's the same thing that happens if they have 50 HP, right? And you hit 10 heads on a Celebi. They're just getting knocked out. They're just going to lose all their energy. That's it. That's all that happens. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of these cards. Which are your favorites? I'll show you which one my favorite is. I really like the Banette EX. I hope something like that comes to item lock. Item locking would be so icky. Right now, it's so difficult with the Badoo in the official TCG. But having something like a stage 1 do it, I think it could be kind of fun. But there you guys have it. Let me know in the comments what you think of this Hoenn inspired concept of over 20 custom cards. If you guys like this video, let's see if we hit over, I don't know, 300 likes. I'll continue doing this potentially every other weekend. You guys let me know what the next set you want to see on the channel. Join the Discord. This is where we share all these custom concepts before these videos. And that's going to be it. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Later.